TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations.
Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israel will not cease its offensive against Hamas in the southernmost border town of Rafah until either Hamas is eliminated or the first hostage in captivity is freed. The Biden administration reportedly delays weapons shipments to Israel over its offensive in Rafah, yet the IDF emphasizes its gratitude for the deep operational collaboration with U.S. CENTCOM. The U.S. State Department confirms that Hamas had blatantly lied over accepting a so-called hostage release deal. Israel will not cease its offensive against Islamist Hamas in the Gazan southernmost border town of Rafah until either Hamas is eliminated or the first hostage in Hamas captivity is freed. Following the blatant lie by Hamas leaders about accepting a hostage release deal that was placed on the table, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu emphasized with the blessing of other members of the war cabinet in Jerusalem that the only way for Hamas to succumb to Israel's demands is through military pressure.
I've directed, with the consent of the War Cabinet, act in Rafah. Within hours, our forces raised Israeli flags at the Rafah crossing and took down the Hamas flags. The entry into Rafah serves two of the main objectives of the war, returning our hostages and eliminating Hamas. We have already proven, in the previous hostage release deal, that military pressure on Hamas is an essential condition for the return of our hostages. As unanimously determined by the War Cabinet, the Hamas proposal was very far from Israel's core demands. Israel will not allow Hamas to restore its evil regime in the Strip. Israel will not allow it to rebuild its military capabilities in order to continue striving for our destruction. Israel cannot accept a proposal that endangers the security of our citizens and the future of our state. Therefore, I have instructed the ranking delegation that left for Cairo, continue to insist on the necessary conditions for the release of our hostages. Continue to strongly insist on the demands that are essential for ensuring the security of Israel.
Netanyahu went on to assert that the occupation of the Rafah border crossing was a significant milestone in the road to eradicate Hamas.
We are continuing the war on Hamas. The occupation of Rafah crossing is a very important step, an important step on the way to destroying Hamas's remaining military capabilities, including the elimination of the 4 terrorist battalions in Rafah, and an important step to damaging Hamas's governing capabilities, because as of this morning, we have denied Hamas the crossing that was vital to establishing its terrorist regime in the Strip.
Alongside Netanyahu's voiced resolve, Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant stressed after touring the freshly conquered parts of Rafah sector that the IDF will not cease its operations unless Hamas succumbs to Israel's will.
I toured the Rafah sector today. I met the commanders and soldiers operating there. I want to remind everyone something crucial of the murderers who went to the Israeli communities of Sufa, Tohalet, and also targeted Yeit, Yevel, Neve, and other local communities, came from the Rafah sector. We are targeting and kill those who murdered our children. We must remember that clearly. This operation will continue until we eliminate Hamas in the Rafah sector and the entire Gaza Strip, or until the first hostage returns.
Jerusalem's top defense official went on to stress that while Israel is willing to compromise for the sake of the lives of its captive citizens, it will not relent unless Hamas agrees to the terms and conditions which were put forth by Israel.
We are willing to make compromises in order to bring back hostages, but if that option is removed, we will go on and deepen the operation. This will happen all over the enclave in the south, in its center, and in its north. We know that Hamas only responds to force.
It is worth noting that during a tour of IDF forces prior to entering into Rafah, IDF Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi underscored to his troops the importance of sacrifice, which is the most important ingredient in convincing the forces of evil surrounding Israel that the Jewish state is here to stay.
The price we've paid, alongside the lessons learned, is a price that we must be willing to pay to live here moving forward, so that those living in the area surrounding us will understand the significant determination that we have to be here. The IDF operates in many sectors, north, south, and Judea and Samaria with ground forces. We are also operating farther away via many other methods. We are operating in many sectors, and we have many more missions moving forward. We must maintain endurance of spirit.
General Halevi went on to pledge the IDF's unyielding resolve to do everything in its power to rescue the hostages, a position echoed by Mossad Director David Barnea, who vowed to go beyond the call of duty to save the 133 hostages from Hamas's tunnels of death.
The Mossad of intelligence and special tasks is the Mossad of us all. It is Mossad that is committed to contend with dangers and threats that rise against us, against the most fanatic enemies that encircle us all about, and in the most overt manner, both near and far. For the purpose of contending with every threat, we are commanded to be the best intelligence agency globally, an assertive organization, determined and forceful against all those who rise up to kill us. We are commanded to build strong and stable alliances with nations of the free world. We are commanded to be united, first and foremost, amongst ourselves. We are commanded to stand firm in our mission to protect Israelis and Jews throughout the world. We are commanded to return the hostages from the death tunnels in Gaza. The moral foundation of returning them home is deep-rooted and obliges everyone. The Mossad, and I at its helm, will turn every stone in order to return them home to us, to their loved ones, to their families, their houses, to the land of Israel.
While fighting in the Gaza Strip persists, an Israeli team of negotiators was dispatched to Cairo yesterday amid ongoing negotiations to try and reach a hostage release deal in exchange for far-reaching Israeli concessions. In tandem, CIA Director William Burns arrived in Jerusalem, where he met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu earlier today to further align Washington and Jerusalem on common efforts to release the hostages. It is important to highlight that in contrast to initial reports by global media outlets, quoting Qatari network Al Jazeera, claiming that Hamas had supposedly accepted a deal, the U.S. State Department clarified that the Islamist terror organization and its supportive mouthpiece had essentially lied.
So let me just make one thing clear, which is Hamas did not accept a ceasefire proposal. Hamas responded, and in their response made several suggestions. It's not the same as accepting. The statement that was issued yesterday that was widely reported, and I'll blame the reporting because it's what the statement said, is not an accurate reflection of what happened. They responded as people do in a negotiation process, but it was not an acceptance. Now, that said, we are trying very hard to get a ceasefire agreement over the line, as I said a moment ago.
The State Department spokesman went on to downplay Israel's operation vis-à-vis Hamas in the town of Rafah.
This appears to be a limited operation, but of course much of that depends on what comes next. They have said, I think quite clearly, it's no secret that they want to conduct a major military operation there. We have made clear that we oppose such an operation. And separately, but of course it's related, we are trying to achieve an agreement that would bring an immediate ceasefire and the release of hostages.
It is important to note that the Biden administration's objections to Israel's determined ground offensive into Rafah is not only by words, but also by deeds. A senior U.S. official confirmed that the United States delayed a shipment of 2 kinds of munitions to Israel last week because of its opposition to a major ground operation in Rafah. The reason for delaying the shipment was concern about the destruction that heavy munitions might cause in a dense urban area. The senior official went on to reveal that no decision had yet been made on whether the shipment would be delivered at a later date. Meanwhile, in Israel, IDF spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, during a Q&A session of the Yediot Ahronot daily conference, played down the apparent decision by the Biden administration to withhold support from Israel.
The security assistance of the United States since the beginning of the war is of unprecedented scale, I think, in the history of the State of Israel. Alongside this, there is something more important than security assistance, which is the operational assistance. The partnership of the IDF with the American Central Command CENTCOM is of unprecedented operational scale. The aid is unprecedented, the operational partnership is significant. When there are disputes, and they are being resolved behind closed doors in a matter-of-fact way. We are responsible for the security interests of the State of Israel, and we are attentive to the interest of the United States in the region.
Returning to Washington, where U.S. President Joe Biden addressed an annual national commemoration of the Holocaust Remembrance Day at the Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C., during the course of which he reiterated his pledge to combat anti-Semitism in the United States and in the world at large, while proclaiming further his support for Israel is ironclad.
This hatred continues to lie deep in the hearts of too many people in the world, and requires our continued vigilance and outspokenness. That hatred was brought to life on October 7th in 2023. On a sacred Jewish holiday, the terrorist group Hamas unleashed the deadliest day of the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Driven by ancient desire to wipe out the Jewish people off the face of the earth, over 1,200 innocent people, babies, parents, grandparents, slaughtered in their kibbutz, massacred at a music festival, brutally raped, mutilated, and sexually assaulted. Thousands more carrying wounds, bullets and shrapnel from the memory of that terrible day they endured. Hundreds taken hostage, including survivors of the Shoah. Now, here we are, not 75 years later, but just 7.5 months later, and people are already forgetting. They're already forgetting that Hamas unleashed this terror. It was Hamas that brutalized Israelis. It was Hamas who took and continues to hold hostages. I have not forgotten, nor have you, and we will not forget.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to encourage you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. Moreover, if you're blessed by our productions, which are exclusively donation-based, and as such, broadcast free of charge, please consider making a donation. You can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, we'll see you during our next update. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.